welcome to Bloody Besties, your true crime podcast with best friends who have known each other since elementary school. We are your hosts, forensic scientist Ruby Wilde, presenting little known cases too.
Me, Melissa May, the daughter of police officers and true crime addict, who will be the one to bring you fun facts about our episode. So sit back, relax. Just kidding. Stay sharp, buckle up. We hope you enjoy the ride.
So, Mel, since we are in wintertime, at least where we are, and like where it's been 26 degrees Fahrenheit if I'm lucky when I leave, sometimes at 14 degrees Fahrenheit when I leave to go to
14
work.
was fun. That was fun.
It's pretty brutal. What? Oh, by the way, it's also holiday time. So if you are part of our Northern Hemisphere listeners, uh, we are freezing. If you're our Southern Hemisphere listeners,
Jealous.
very. One of my friends, I've talked about him before. He's down there and he's like, "Oh, look, it's summertime. Oh my gosh." Yeah.
Well, and I was on a 10-day cruise to the Bahamas.
You were. Yes.
And it was high 70s every day. Came home to Florida and it was 56.
But you also got trapped in like a hurricane.
The hurricane, yes. We had to reroute. So we did not get to go to Mexico.
I got married there, so I can't say anything bad about
Well,
it.
I've never been because I'm so scared of Mexico and getting kidnapped. And
Are you kidding me?
No, I don't want to get kidnapped. I don't want to have a ransom out for me or nothing. So I've never gone to Mexico. And we were going to go and do the bee excursion and tequila and chocolate tasting. And that got canceled because of the hurricane.
Well, you know me with tequila, where I like can't even smell it because that was my trigger alcohol.
You're never again.
Oh my gosh! And we did tequila tasting, and I kept like a freaking pregnant woman. I would pass all of my shots to my husband because I was like, not doing it.
I do that at Jack when it gets to because Jack gives you a flight of probably 5.
Yeah.
And when I get into 2 and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of done with this. And I slipped it to your husband the last year.
Yeah. Are we even friends? Because whiskey is the best thing ever.
Well, I need my pickleback. If I don't have a pickleback, then I can't sit there and take shots of whiskey. It's just, bleh.
I'll just sneak pickles in a baggie next time that we go to the distillery. How about that?
They should offer that.
I mean, you're not supposed to need it. But yes, it is right around the holidays. And offline, I was talking with Mel, and then I said I was going to save this for us talking on the podcast. So we had some drama at work. We have this thing where we have like a competition for decorating
your cubicles.
Well, no, like
your department.
Yeah. So like we have these hallways because when you work forensics, like you have to have like badge readers and everything to get into everything because we have evidence.
Right.
So it's very secular. Yeah. And so we actually share a hallway with a couple of other units. And we were like, okay, we are going to take this portion of the hallway that we will decorate, and then you guys can have the entire rest, even though our unit spans the rest because we have a firing range, which obviously has to be quite long.
Right.
So we take over the majority of the hallway, but we just wanted like this small little bit because we wanted to build a gingerbread house.
That's adorable.
Like a fake one. Like we lined the hallway with like
brown.
Yeah, like brown tablecloths. And then we made gingerbread men that represented each person in our unit.
I love that.
Hang on, I'm going to show Mel the one that looked like me, and I'll probably get it on socials. And it's very on par, especially for what I'm wearing right now.
And you got to do your own, or did someone get
I decorated for almost everyone. Can you see it?
It looks like Orphan Annie.
Well, that's what I look like.
For people that cannot see it, it looks like, wait, what's that doll with the red hair but she had a boyfriend? Is that Orphan Annie?
No, that's Raggedy Ann.
Raggedy Ann and Andy.
You telling me I look raggedy?
That gingerbread looks raggedy, but it's adorable.
I worked really hard on that. Okay.
It'd be more fun if other coworkers could make it Like, oh, this is Ruby. Like if you didn't have to do your own.
Well, no, I did theirs. And so, like, a lot of the other
Oh
coworkers,
no,
they would come up and they would look and they're like,
that's not me.
no, actually, they all loved them. They literally all loved them. And yes, I'm not using the word legitimately.
Thank you.
They literally loved them.
Legit loved it. But yeah, your new name is Raggedy Ann.
Sorry if that hurt your ears. But yes, so there was kind of some drama with that. And because we wanted the hallway, like we started decorating and the hallway that we share with the other units, they came out and they were like, you can't decorate here. We're like, but we can. We gave you guys the rest. It was this whole thing. And then I turned into a spite decorator.
So what's the other unit?
I'm not going to tell you.
Well, you're forensics. They are.
They're also forensics.
Okay.
They're just another unit of
Okay.
forensics.
Okay.
But yeah, they had like a big old problem that we were decorating to begin with. And then I was like, so then I spite decorated and I brought my decorations as close to their unit as I possibly could. And I started like holiday vomiting all over everything and took over everything that I possibly could. And I'm like, don't outspite me. And we got a participation trophy, like an honorable mention. Like we didn't get top three, but they didn't. So I win.
Did you make it on the website?
No.
I stalked that website looking for like someday because they do show pictures of, I think it was Halloween,
Yes.
and I did not see you.
I mean, we
Super
might.
disappointed.
I'm just gonna have to wait.
Yeah.
But we did have I might be on the website shortly, maybe. I judged we have here in our state, there's well, I mean, the United States, it's called Skills USA. And they have started, which I love because this wasn't a thing when I was going to school, is they have this thing called like it's their criminal justice program, which if you want to be a forensic scientist, do not get a degree in criminal justice. I'm telling you that right now. You have to get your degree in a hard science if you want to be a forensic scientist. But they have this program. And so I judged the crime scene investigation portion of it. And so that was super cool. So I did that recently as well. But anyway, you're not here for just chat. And I know we're probably going to have to time mark this that we're about 7 minutes in before we even get anywhere near the episode. But if you enjoy our chat beforehand, just let us know on our socials and we'll keep it up. So that way, we're catching up on mic instead of off, which I mean, we do see each other almost weekly.
Right.
So
Especially during football season.
Yeah, there ain't that much to see because yeah, we have season tickets and we watch football together every Sunday.
But we do take hiatuses from each other when it's not football season, I noticed.
Yes.
So maybe because of the podcast, we'll see each other more often.
Heck yeah.
Hey, heart hands.
Hands. All right. So, Mel, what was the topic I gave you this week?
You gave me Antarctica.
Do you have any idea what the crimes may be? Did that come up in your research?
No.
Okay.
I do know that it looks like a terrible place to be because it is icy, and I don't like that.
Truth.
So, do you know the most shocking feature in Antarctica?
No.
You didn't even think about. Think. The most shocking thing in Antarctica.
Well, you say you say shocking, and I immediately think electricity, but
Yeah. No dad jokes.
okay, the most shocking thing in Antarctica.
In your research, you didn't come across anything?
I cover the first person that was born there.
Oh, I didn't know people were there.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Besides scientists.
Shocking. It was recently discovered.
No. All right.
I got
I'll
nothing.
end your suffering. It is the Taylor Glacier, which is also known as Blood Falls. Have you heard of Blood Falls?
I've never heard of Blood Falls.
I hadn't either. It is a bright red waterfall that seeps through Taylor Glacier into Lake Bonny.
That's fun. Wait,
Yes.
why is it red?
It's red. Oh, I will get to that.
Sorry.
It's known as Blood Falls. It was discovered in 1911. The falls don't have a regular flow like you would think, but when they do, it's red
Why?
because the water is not oxidized. So the scientists tested it. The salinity of it, that means salty, right?
Yes.
Is 3 times more than the ocean.
Oh,
So even when it does flow and it's sub-zero temperatures, the water is like 23 degrees Fahrenheit.
okay.
It doesn't freeze.
Okay.
So as the water sits on the side of the banks, it oxidizes and rusts basically. So this brine water is rusting
That's
and turning
really
red.
freaking cool. No, I had no clue that that even existed or was a possibility.
Yeah. So the scientists are still discovering all these fun things in
I mean,
Antarctica.
that was 1911. How long did it take for them to figure out why it was red?
Well, in my research, they're still hypothesizing about this. They're saying it's like a pressure valve. And so when there's pressure from the glaciers, from the underground lakes and streams that connect underground, it releases the brine water up through the Blood Falls. And the water's been under there for 5 million years.
Freaking
Still a
awesome.
mystery.
Okay, the scientist in me is like, tell me more. I need to know more.
I watched 3 YouTubes about this,
It's pretty awesome.
and I
No,
came across another fun thing if you want to keep going.
absolutely. Let's do this because I'm floored.
The oceans in Antarctica contain the largest variety of these
Snow. Wait, you said oceans.
in the
That would have
ocean.
been like the blondest fucking answer
What were you going to
ever.
say? Snowflakes. Snowflakes.
Okay, I was recently in a pinup contest where I designed my dress and I sewed a bunch of snowflakes on it for hours and hours and hours for like a month straight. So snowflakes are on my brain. And by the way, I won. I Miss Winter Wonderland. So,
Winter Wonderland.
but okay, ocean has Antarctic Ocean has more of these than anything else. Narwhals.
Maybe. Sea spiders.
What?
Yeah. They have the largest sea spiders. They can be as big as a dinner plate, like 12 inches long.
Are they like crabs?
They are in the crab family, which is the arthropod family. And if you think about what this looks like, it's most spiders have a big, oh, I should know this. I went to pest control school. They have a big abdomen
Yes.
in all their legs. So these are more alien like. They're all legs with just a little tiny abdomen, just basically connects all the legs.
That reminds me of like
Alien.
the face huggers.
It's
Yes.
exactly a face hugger. And all their body parts, all their guts run down the legs of these spiders because they don't have an abdomen and they breathe out of little holes in their legs.
What?
It's creepy. And so they're saying that they get big in these polar waters. They're able to get so big because the water in Antarctica has so much oxygen in it. And I am trying to remember why, but that's the oxygen hypothesis is what it's called.
Okay.
In the polar cold water, their metabolic rates are very low and slow. So this allows the spiders to eat large, thick tissues, and it's not a problem for them to get the oxygen that they need because it's full of oxygen in the water. That's
Wow.
why they're saying, because in warm water, they're like the size of mites. And then they kind of get a little bit bigger from there. Like when I was watching my YouTube,
Heck yeah.
it was like the size of a palm. But the Antarctic ones are like a plate
I'm just picturing a bunch of face huggers in Antarctica.
on the
Oh my
dive.
gosh. Have you ever seen the movie The Thing?
Like the black and white one.
Oh, it has like, well, okay. The OG has Kurt Russell in it, and then they redid it recently.
I'm sure I have. Okay. Why do you do this? Why do you do this to me every single episode?
Because I watch a shit
I
ton
don't have
more
a
movies than you.
photographic memory,
That is true. And we yeah, okay.
so I
Okay.
could scroll Netflix and I might be like, "Oh yeah, I get it. I remember that one."
So it's reminding me of that. Like, I mean, not like it was like a face hugger like Alien, but spoiler. Okay, it came out in like 1982. Okay, I'm not spoiling
You're
anything.
not spoiling anything.
But yeah, it was like this monster that could only thrive in that condition, and that's what it sounds like this is.
I'm sure I saw it. It was based in snow, blizzard.
Yeah, but it's only like I said, it was that one, and then it got remade. I have an interesting fun fact in the core memory that I have that in that movie they had like this vehicle that they used to go across the snow. Wait, I might actually talk this episode. We'll see.
I think I've seen that one.
Okay, well,
Does it fall beneath the snow?
yes.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
All right. So, as Mel has informed you, we are talking about Antarctica today. And why would anyone want to spend a whole year on the I don't know why it's really hard for me to say that word, Antarctica continent.
I don't know. I would
It's
not be there.
there's too many stupid T's in all of that.
And this whole time when I was doing my stuff, I was like, she's gonna bust me on how I say it.
No, I can't freaking say Antarctica
Antarctica.
continent. So it is the coldest and driest continent in the world. It covers almost 5.5 million square miles. It is a place with no permanent human habitation. It is a place with no countries, even though there is a treaty in place, no one can claim it, any part of it. So if you ask 7 countries, they would beg to differ. In the summer, the sun never sets. In the winter, it never rises. So yeah, like we're talking, this is hostile environment. The average temperature in the winter may be around -10 to -30 degrees Celsius, which is about 14 to -22 Fahrenheit. But it can reach a scorching 9 degrees Celsius or 48 degrees Fahrenheit. Right now, we are in 40, less, just under 48 degrees Fahrenheit.
I think we're around 50s today.
Yeah, it's freaking cold. We're both in flannels. Okay, that's cold.
Yeah.
Coldest temperature ever recorded in Antarctica is -144 degrees Fahrenheit, which is -97.8 Celsius. Okay, I think it's either Arctic or Antarctic that there's a guy that is there currently residing and he has an Instagram and he has reels and he had one where he went outside and he was like, "Oh, if you want to know how cold it is," and he went outside with a towel and he went to go like do like the towel fluff that you would do right before you lay it down and it froze by the time he like finished
Yeah,
snapping it.
for sure.
And then he had like another one where he was like pouring tea and like the whole thing froze as he was pouring it into his teacup. I wonder if marketing Megan's going to be able to find these images for our socials.
Why does he live there?
Yeah.
Is he a scientist?
Of course he is. Because scientists are the best and we're willing to sacrifice our comfort so that way we can have more
You
knowledge.
can learn.
But
It's amazing.
when I say that, I mean it because even though I'm a forensic scientist, when I worked crime scenes, you're very uncomfortable. It's hot. It's miserable. You're in other people's homes that are
You're
in the
in
conditions that
fluids.
they live in. Very, very much we're in fluids. And then you also have to remember before that, I did cancer research for 10 years. And that involves, I mean, don't hate me. I'm going to have some like PETA activists and whatever. Yes, we did animal research, and that's like its other thing, but we get good knowledge and it is cancer research. And no, the government does not have a cure for cancer that they're stifling. I'm telling you that right now because
So big pharma can profit.
it has nothing to do with that. There's plenty of people I would have saved if I could, and I did do it for 10 years. I was in the thick of it. Yeah, it was it's no. So just so everybody knows, no, there is no cure for cancer currently. There's treatments, and no, it is not some giant conspiracy with big pharma. I hate to break it to you. I mean,
I think the treatments don't help. It,
that's a conversation all of its own because again, I have to toe the line on a lot of stuff.
And I don't. But I've watched people died of the quote unquote treatments. And I feel like if they never would have known, how much longer would they have lived?
I feel the same way in all honesty.
Yeah.
I really do. Yeah. But we'll come back to
But
that
on that note,
another day. So back to Antarctica. The oldest human remains in Antarctica were found when they were already 175 years old. And it was a human skull and a femur that were found on Livingston Island, which is technically just off the peninsula. They were found in the 1980s by Chilean researchers, and they were from a woman who had been around 21 when she died. It was determined that she too had been Chilean.
is
Isn't
that
that
how you
crazy?
say that word? Chilean or Chilean?
Well, it's from
Chile?
the country. Oh,
Chile.
did you say Chile?
Yes, my sister-in-law is from Chile, and that's how she says it.
I had a soccer coach from Chile, and he would say that he's from Chile.
God.
He was born and raised there, and oh my God, he had the most funny saying. Oh, it was my high school coach.
Oh, uh,
I'm not going to
was
say
he
his
also
name.
my Spanish teacher?
Might have been. Name started with a D.
I don't.
Oh, but
These nuts.
but he would constantly, like, my favorite thing is when we were playing soccer, he would say, "Go out there and eat their lunch," instead of "eat them for lunch."
Oh my God. Maybe it was the male soccer coach that he also coached. So maybe it was
Oh, I
different
know
than
which one
female.
you're talking about. He had the Castilian lisp when he was teaching his Spanish.
That's the class I cheated all the way through to
I did not.
no habla español.
I did 3 years, and I did really good in
I
it.
did it, but I cheated.
I was probably the person that you cheated off
I
of.
had to survive.
We just had a conversation about
I
this,
know.
about how I was the girl
And we
that
never
people
shared a
cheated off
class,
of.
you and I.
No, it's weird.
Strange.
Huh. Hmm.
Because you were smarter.
I was in the smart people classes. It's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. I was a nerd. Okay. So back to this. She was Chilean and she died anywhere from 1819 to 1825. Now, the only question was, how did she get there? Because Chile is obviously not Antarctica, and we're talking 1800s. So, to answer the first question I asked, why would anyone want to spend a year on this continent? Of course, they would go there because of science, because this is the coolest subject ever.
Correct.
I mean, science, go science. Woo! Breaking Bad was based off of it,
Great show.
isn't it? There's so
Yes, I
many.
saw it twice.
I do have to say, like, if you think about most of the procedural shows that last long, long times, they're all based on science. So just putting that one out there.
Dexter.
I mean, did I ever tell you that I know the guy who was um, what's it called? He was a blood spatter expert. So he was a consultant for, like, I want to say the first 5 seasons of that TV show. As I worked with him, I was friends with him. He also was a bassist in a band that I went and saw a couple times.
I'm so glad that they used a consultant.
They did, which is why it's such a
Fantastic.
good show because they did it very accurately.
Yes. That helps, unlike Taylor Sheraton's shows
Mm. Mm.
that are not accurate. And we, us cowgirls and ranchers, make fun of him.
Yeah, there are so many things that I'm like, you could have had a consultant. Like my favorite. Well, you know what? Whatever. We'll get back into the episode. We are now like, what is it? Almost 30 minutes in, and I am on paragraph 3. We might have to cut some of this.
It's
We'll see.
fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Okay. So they're there for science and they are in government supported research stations for various countries. The US has three, McMurdo, Amundsen, Scott, South Pole, and Palmer. The population on the continent fluctuates between 1,000 to 5,000 people over the summer. And just remember, this is a location that is larger than all of Europe. So, like, and you're talking 5,000 people on a continent that's larger than Europe.
And you don't think about that because it's at the bottom of the globe.
Yeah.
So you never really see how big Antarctica is until you spread it all out.
Right.
Plot
And now
twist
you're
paper.
thinking 5,000
You
people there.
flatlanders probably know how big it is, but us round believers.
Sorry, you just made me laugh my headphone right out. But yes, she is right. And it is mapped. Climate patterns are analyzed. The oceans are scoured for the behavior of marine mammals, as Mel brought up, like those sea spiders that are so unique there. And people even look to outside Earth's atmosphere from there as well because um, it's so clear and there's no light pollution or anything like that. And so they were even able to see a meteorite from Mars that had landed there in 1984.
They compare Antarctica to Mars a lot.
I could see that because it's so desolate and unpopulated and hostile. All right. So the base Esperanza is run by Argentina, and it is known for a lot of firsts that have happened there. And this has to do with the question that I answered. And the first person born there was Emilio Marquez Palma in 1978. Isn't that crazy? Somebody was born there. Could you imagine saying, "Oh, my birth
Oh,
certificate is," by the way, keep in mind, no country owns any part of Antarctica. So how do you get a birth certificate?
you just live in. How are you? Where are you born in? Like there's no hospitals.
No, but there's doctors and people are born without hospitals all the time. You've got midwives, you've got doulas, you got all that stuff.
Hopefully, it's in the summertime.
That's true. So yeah, somebody showed up pregnant. Emilio was born there. There was the first Catholic church there in that particular station, the first school, and the first shortwave radio broadcaster that went from Antarctica to Argentina. Crazy.
Yeah.
So then you have the Davis Station, which is run by Australia, and it's in an ice free area. So there is an ice free area of Antarctica, but the food is so scarce there that the chef has become one of the most important people
Oh wow.
because you have to get everything taken in, and then you have to get somebody that could stretch that food as long as possible and not have people feel like they're eating gruel all day, every
Rations.
day. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Then the McMurdo Station, it can house 1,250 residents, and it's in a territory claimed by New Zealand. And interesting enough, since this is the largest station on the continent, most of the occupants are not researchers, but instead they're construction workers, maintenance, and operation because they have to maintain it. And I got me a blue collar husband, and he'd be like, "Frick yeah, you can't have science without what I do because he's an electrician." So
Yeah.
your husband's very mechanically inclined, and I feel like he would say the same exact thing.
Correct.
You got to have motors.
Yep.
Interesting enough, it also houses the continent's only ATM. Why you need cash in Antarctica in the McMurdo station, I have no idea. And they only receive a shipment of supplies once a year. Crazy,
That checks.
right? So I'm going to plug it again. And it's unintentional, but Vintage Homicide's been going for so dang long that I covered a lot of stuff. So over on Vintage Homicide, we did cover the race to the North Pole and how there was also a race to make it to the South Pole. So it leads to a lot of lost exploration groups and death. So if you want to know all about the North Pole exploration, it's over there. We're talking about the South Pole today, which has nothing to do with the North Pole exploration. Something you all should know about me is I am obsessed with explorations, especially those that involve a little bit of mystery, which is why over on Vintage Homicide, I did cover the race to the North Pole because there are quite a few explorations gone wrong that went in that direction. Now, when we're talking about today's episode, the first Belgian expedition started in the fall of 1897, and that was on the retrofitted whaling ship, the Belgica, Belgica, Belgica.
You're supposed to enter these in the pronunciation in the Google and say what it says, how to say it.
Do you know how long ago I have written these? I can't remember. So, and that ship had representatives from multiple countries on board.
I don't like Welsh ships.
I mean, neither do why, but back in the day, you have to remember, like, they used whales. It was kind of
Everything.
like, in America, you use buffaloes top to tail kinda
Right,
thing.
right.
You use whales top to tail. I mean, that was how you had lanterns. That was how you had I mean, heck, you
Food.
lipstick. I'm sorry, not a priority, but I can't forget it.
Yeah.
So, the first death happened when Carl yes, I should have looked this up, okay? Wienke was washed overboard in January of 1898. Their ship wound up frozen in the ice for a year until they were able to free themselves and return home. The voyage did produce valuable scientific information. It is not without hardship involving death and insanity and multiple infractions of insubordination. This was not the end of the explorers, though, because the first team to make it was Roald Amundsen's crew, and they were aboard the Fram on December 14th, 1911, 33 days before Robert Falcon Scott's crew aboard the Terra Nova. Scott's crew of five all died on the return journey from starvation in the Gulf. Crazy, right? Now, I could go on for a while about explorations. The one that most interested me was Ernest Shackleton, 1914, on the Endurance and the Aurora. But we are not here for that unless there is an interest.
Is anybody murdered?
No.
Then that sounds like a different podcast.
Let me skip a bunch of pages now.
Are you really just doing like history and stuff?
I like history. A bunch of people died, and it has to do with Shackleton whiskey. We'll cover it on a future episode if anybody drops a line into our socials that they're interested in me covering Ernest Shackleton.
Let us know.
We're going to start with an unconfirmed tale, but it was widely reported. So it has to do with different countries willing to admit what may or may not have happened in or out of their purview. We'll put it that way. I'm trying to cover all of our bases because this is all allegedly, allegedly, allegedly. Don't come after us. Because in 1959, at the Russian Vostok station that was established in 1957, there was an argument over chess. We can all agree that this is a very contentious sport, right?
Yeah.
Now, the unnamed attacker went after the opponent that defeated him and killed his opponent with an ice axe. Some reports state that it was fatal, some not fatal, and some that it never happened at all. I would assume that the didn't happen at all came from the Russian government, but allegedly, allegedly, allegedly. Now, that led to chess actually being banned in the Russian stations. So it must have happened because you're not allowed to play chess in Russian stations.
Wow.
So
That's great.
must have happened.
Let's not ban the ice axe. Ban the game.
Oh, that's a whole nother discussion when we're talking about weapons that are used for
Right.
murder and banning them. Now, I would be remiss not to have included the account. There you go. Another super crazy tale that brings home how isolated it is to be on Antarctica came about in 1961 when Dr. Leonid Ivanovich Rogozov was at the Novolazarevskaya
Beautiful.
Novolazarevskaya station since September 1960 at the age of 26. He was the sole doctor of a team of 13 researchers there. Now, on April 29th, 1961, so we're talking, what is that, like 8 months later, at the age of 27, he started exhibiting symptoms of illness, fever, weakness, nausea, and that progressed to pain in his lower right abdomen. By April 30th, things had gotten really bad, and the next nearest research station that could possibly help was more than 1,000 miles away. So we're talking, what is that? It would take like 24 hours almost to get there. And they were stuck in a blizzard. So a lot longer than that. There were no flights in or out, and he was desperate. And he thought he knew what the problem was because he was a doctor. He needed to remove his appendix before it burst and killed him.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
Or someone poisoned him.
no, I had that. My appendix was removed when I was 5.
Wow.
And they had to take out a couple lymph nodes too because my lymph nodes were adult sized and they were crushing it. And if you ever think that you have appendicitis, go to the doctor. They had me do the weirdest thing because again, this is back in the 80s. When I went to the doctor, they had me jump and I doubled over in pain.
Oh,
And that's how they were like, "Yep, it's appendicitis."
wow.
Like, they just knew right away. And then I had to get transferred to another hospital because I was so young. And the first hospital that I was at was like, "We can't operate on her." And the other hospital, I was the youngest patient for an appendectomy that they've ever had.
That's kind of cool.
So I got that going for me. But yes, I am missing quite a few organs, and that's just a couple of them. But yes, appendicitis, it is no joke. It can cause you death. Um, so he knew that he had to get it out. And he had a driver and a meteorologist help him by holding lights and a mirror. And there's pictures online of this happening. And when the station director present, he gave himself local anesthetic with Novocaine. So he was alive
Yep.
and he started his own surgery. While he was operating on himself, he was so focused on those that were helping him and how white they turned because they were scared. Because they're just like, I'm gonna holding the lights, I'm
That's
holding
me.
here. Like, and then the person is just like, "Doop, doop, 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 doop,"
Yeah.
and that's me.
I I almost passed out. We had a one of our chicks we got from a breeder. They left a rubber band on its leg,
I remember
and
that.
the chick, I noticed it was limping, and I was like, "Why is this chick limping?" And I fluffed up its feather on the leg, and the chick had grown over the rubber band. Now, this happened to 2 of the chicks I got from the
Mm,
same lady.
mm,
And so my husband had to do the surgery, and I was holding the chick down, keeled over because it was taking him forever because bless his heart, he was being so gentle that I was like getting lightheaded, like, "Are you done yet?" And I had to put my head down and look at the floor, but I was still holding the chick on the counter. So that would be me. I'm sure I was white.
and I'm just the opposite. I'm like, let me get the face right up in there.
But I know when you're the one doing it, you're more focused. You're
Yeah.
not seeing the whole picture. I did that again. I was helping at a veterinarian when I was 9. And
Yeah.
I got sick too during a spaying. It's too much to see.
Again, I did animal research, so yeah. I mean, but back to this man, the mirror was not helping him much. So instead, he performed his surgery by feel. Yeah. He noticed when he reached the appendix that the base had turned dark, and that let him know that it was ready to rupture, like at any minute, because it was filled. And so he was able to actually successfully finish the surgery. He took antibiotics and sleeping pills, and he made a complete recovery. He was back up and running just 2 weeks later.
Crazy.
Yeah. And he survived. He had a son, Vladislav, before he died in 2000 at the age of 66. He actually passed from lung cancer.
Oh,
Yeah. Now, because of this tale, appendectomies are now compulsory for anyone traveling to that location. So I'd be allowed to go to Antarctica because I don't have an appendix anymore. But you're not allowed to go there if you still have it. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
I'm dead.
So,
Insane.
yeah, you can't play chess and you can't have an appendix so far.
Who makes these rules if nobody owns this place? It's just
We'll get into that. Now, October of 1965 brought a tragedy when 4 men were out exploring their stations at the Halley Research Station in East Antarctica. They were in one of those heavy duty enclosed tractors, and we have probably seen them in movies.
if
Yeah,
you were paying attention earlier, you
yes,
would know.
the movie The Thing. Yeah, yeah. This is how I knew this information was researching this paragraph that I'm talking about right now. It wasn't just something that I brilliantly knew. But anyway,
You retain a lot of information though.
woo. So this was John Ross, Jeremy, who went by Jerry Bailey, David, who went by Day, Wilde, and John Wilson. They had a team of dogs following them, and the dogs suddenly stopped. 3 were in the cab, 1 was in the sledge in the back. So, like, am I describing this right? Like, you have a vehicle, like a broom broom vehicle, and then there was like a sled that was attached to it, and then you have like a team of dogs behind them. So Ross had been on the sledge and he saw that the tractor was just gone. Yeah. So he ran up and he saw the tractor kind of balancing on a crevasse.
Good.
I mean, it's how you have to say it. It had fallen 30 feet in. He shouted down to find out if his team was okay. And when Jerry told him, sadly, I'm the last one left alive, he had been so injured he couldn't get himself back up. So Ross attempted to rescue him and he heard a scream and then silence. Only one of them was left alive.
Now there's none.
Just that one.
Okay.
So, yeah, John Ross. 1982, the Antarctic took three more men, Ambrose Morgan, Kevin Oakleton, and John Cole, when they had become stranded on Peterman Island. It broke up, like the sea ice broke up. And over the course of a month, they actually survived on this broken ice and they were in communication with the mainland until another storm formed and they weren't able to get them. And the men were pulled out to sea and they were just never seen again. So we're already at six that it's claimed. 1980, oh, well,
That's documented.
six documented, one alleged. 1984, Almirante Brown Station, established in 1951, was operational until April 12, 1984, when the station leader and doctor had been told, you're going to have to stay over winter. He was not okay with this, so he burned down the base. The occupants had to be rescued by a USS Hero, and it was rebuilt and it became a summer only station. So no one died in this fire, and he didn't have to spend the winter there.
No chest, no appendixes, no overwintering.
Right?
What am I missing?
Without consent.
What am I missing?
Um,
I'll just keep keeping track of this.
yeah, so far that's all like yeah. Now it's been known since the 1950s that there was something called a winter over syndrome, and that included depression, insomnia, anger, and irritability. You could have diminished capacity to do normal everyday things, you lose concentration and memory. And since the 1970s, occupants have had to go through psychological evaluations. Um, at least the ones that are coming from the United States. So this arson might have been preventable if everyone would have gone through it, but we'll never know. In 1996, there was a disagreement between cooks at McMurdo Station. This is quite a bit that's happening at McMurdo. And that led to an attack with a claw hammer, which I did have a case that involved a claw hammer, and there was video, and I had to watch it happen. I don't know how to explain this where it's not gonna make people vomit kind of thing, but
Oh,
yes.
make them vomit. Let's go.
No, it's, when you attack with a claw hammer, sometimes,
The front end of the claw part.
um, even when you're attacking with the front end, the claw end gets caught on things coming back up,
Okay. Yeah.
and
Like hair.
it
Oh, deeper than that?
I'm trying not to give away the case. Sorry. But yes, I have unfortunately had to I mean, again, because of my job, I've had to actually watch people get murdered for
And then it probably like slings it up on the ceiling as he
mhm,
takes it back.
mhm, mhm.
Oh,
So, yeah, when I read this, I was like, "Clawhammer? Ugh." But I've also seen what my husband calls a business hammer, which is like a handheld sledgehammer. Does that make sense? You know, like with the
like a
rubber.
mallet?
Yeah, it's like 2 pounds.
Yeah.
So I've seen what that can do as well.
You've seen what a monster can do.
I've seen so many
But we
things.
won't go into that.
No, I've seen so many things. Pickaxes. Um,
Pickaxe eye.
but yes, okay. So this one, when I was researching this, I was like, a claw hammer? No, like, can we do ball peen or something? And if you don't know what a claw hammer is, it's the one that has the flat hammer on one side and then the two prongs on the other side that you use to remove the nails. So it's got two kind of sharp ends to it.
It's just your normal hammer.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. When like you picture a hammer, it's your normal one. And so there was an attack with a claw hammer on Tony Bayer and Joe Sturmer. Yeah, Sturmer. I just had to make sure I wrote that right. So there was an attack with a claw hammer on Tony Bayer and Joe Sturmer. I don't know why I have such a hard time with that name, Sturmer, who they actually both recovered. And the FBI had to go there and investigate what happened. And that was the first time the United States had sent a federal law enforcement agency to the continent for an investigation. So that was 1996. That was the first time there was a federal investigation.
So would it work like if it's Americans popping off and acting crazy, they'd send like almost like an embassy, they would send their people, and if it was like,
I think I cover it in a bit.
oh my goodness.
I'm sorry, you have to have
I'll
patience.
wait.
You have to have patience because I do know this on the top of my head, but I have now learned from the thing and the tractor that maybe I shouldn't overspeak because chances are I know it because I've researched for this episode.
I
Okay.
don't want to forget my question.
All right. And now we're into May 2000 when a mystery happened. Okay. So this is like the meat and potatoes case that actually got me turned on to I don't want to say turned on, but it got me to researching Antarctica in the first place because I had heard about this way back when. I mean, it happened in 2000. So when I say way back when, I was already 20. But I know. But this was Dr. Rodney Marks. He was 32. He was stationed at Amundsen Scott South Pole Station. And yeah, because that's where the first two explorers made their trip to the South Pole from there. And it was run by the U.S. National Science Foundation, which was established in 1950 by Congress. And its mission statement of was progress, or is, I should say, the progress of science, secure national defense, and advanced the national health, prosperity, and welfare. So that's the whole reason that they built the station. He was the only operator of the Antarctic Submillimeter Telescope and Remote Observatory, which is ASTRO for short. And using this, they detected for the first time carbon in the large Magellanic Cloud. It's okay. It's a satellite of a satellite or a dwarf galaxy of the Milky Way. So like we're in the Milky Way, it's like whoop in there, but like you could see those. I'm making hand gestures, like somehow you could see that through your listening device, whatever. Now, he wasn't new to the station because he had been there before in 1994 for 2 weeks as it was like to get his PhD. So it was for a PhD project. And then he was there again in 1998 and he was working on the CARA IR project, which CARA stands for Center for Astrophysical Research in Antarctica. Kara was the one who put forth the Astro Project. He had been dating and had become engaged to maintenance specialist Sonia. It's either going to be Volter or Wolter, because depending on how you pronounce it. And he played in the bass band Fanny Pack, and he also played in the band Big Nancy Boys. Isn't that cute? I'm sorry, that's freaking adorable.
Nancy boy.
Yeah. And just as quickly from what I could find, it seems like Sonia is still active in cold research and is with the Global Monitoring Laboratory as a coordinator in Colorado. Yeah. I always try and research like all these. This is why I wind up in rabbit holes like you wouldn't believe. Which Mel is going to get. I have like a whole series coming forth because I went down rabbit hole and then another and then another and then another and then I wound up with like 7 episodes. But anyway, so Sonia seems to be doing fine after what happened. I don't want to say fine. She's recovered. We'll put it that way.
What happened to her?
Um, she lost her fiance. We're getting to it. Okay. So back to Antarctica, he being Dr. Rodney Marks, he was known to take members of the station outside and have like impromptu astronomy classes. So he'd take them outside and just point out constellations because, like I said, there's no light pollution or anything there. So you could just see everything. And people really like enjoyed this and they were fond of him. And he was just a really good guy that was just like me, like for the love of science, I'm just like, oh my gosh, do you guys just not understand how
Right.
beautiful this is? And that it seemed to be like that was also his personality. And a little bit about him, he was born in Geelong, Australia. He graduated from the University of Melbourne with a Bachelor's of Science with first class honors. He then got his PhD in physics from University of South Wales. His thesis had been the characterization of South Pole as a site for astrophysical observations. Obviously, he was known to be brilliant and funny and reported almost everywhere that he enjoyed his liquor.
But don't a lot of us?
I mean, th- I want to say, yes, we do have sober friends. So maybe not them,
Right.
but those of us that still imbibe, yeah. But so everybody was like, oh, he loved his liquor. That becomes pertinent just because of the way that he died.
Uh-oh.
So we're going to put that out there. But I don't think that it's like a character flaw or anything that anybody was like tagging him with. I think it was just like he just enjoyed to have a good time.
Right.
All right. So on May 11th, he started to feel ill. And the following morning, he started vomiting blood. He had stomach pains, nausea, fever. His vision was no longer clear. His joints hurt. He went running to the base doctor, Robert Thompson, for help. Dr. Thompson couldn't figure out what was wrong with him, and his symptoms just continued to progress. He was having trouble breathing. It was said that he was in contact with other doctors over satellite. Nobody had anything that would help him. And thinking that maybe he was going through alcohol withdrawals or anxiety. So that's why it came like, oh, he loved his liquor. And I'm like, but I don't, there's a point of alcoholism that you can maintain for so long in that remote of a station kind of thing. Does that make sense? Anyway, he was given Haldol, which is an antipsychotic. And after that, he breathed his last breath. The heck? Two. He was dead at the age of 32, and they thought it happened from a heart attack or maybe an aneurysm. And because he's in the Antarctic, there was no way to evacuate his body for months.
But he stayed frozen, probably.
Pretty much, yeah. His fellow researchers built him a coffin, and it was decorated with a plaque made by Sonia with the constellation Scorpio because that was his favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Whoop, go Scorpios.
Did they autopsy him eventually? Please say they did.
They did.
I
We're
have to
getting
know
there.
how he
Yes,
died.
I'm gonna. Yes, they did. Okay.
Get to it.
It's all about the story. I gotta lay the
The
foundation.
build up.
I gotta lay the foundation before I can do the building. So the plaque had Scorpio on it, and he would rest there until October 30th. hmm When a plane was able to take him to Christchurch, New Zealand to have an autopsy with a forensic pathologist named Dr. Martin Sage. He discovered 150 milliliters of methanol in his system and track marks on his arms.
Oh, no.
But of note, no drugs were in his body. He had so the methanol was like a glass of wine worth of methanol. Sorry, my dog is Rebel's going a little bit spazzy right now.
He doesn't want me to touch her with my feet.
She doesn't. She is like her daddy and does not like feet.
Sorry,
She
Rebel.
can't handle feet. She can't handle her feet touched, and she can't handle people touching her with feet.
But I want to pet her, but I can't reach, so I'm using
You just
my
gotta call her
foot.
up to you over there.
Sensitive.
She is. I just don't like feetsies. I don't like feetsies. Sorry. Recording with dogs. It's always fun.
Go pet that dog.
Go pet that dog. Okay. So now we have a mystery. The methanol, like how did he ingest this methanol? As we know, methanol is poisonous. I'm gonna say it. If you don't know, I covered it over on Vintage Homicide. Miss Mayday covered methanol poisoning in the Iron Mike. I think I called it Unkillable Mike Malloy episode. If you want to know a lot more about how methanol can kill you and ways that you can counteract it, blah 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 blah. But here over on Bloody Besties, I'm just going to say there's a mystery because the methanol was what was used at the station to clean their microscopes. And so they were wondering, had he done this to himself because he had access to it because obviously his work was through a microscope. So there is actually a treaty because, as I mentioned before, no country technically owns any part of Antarctica. So there's a thing called the Antarctic Treaty. And that's where 53 nations drew up in 1959 a document that put in place basically saying this continent is to be used for scientific research and it's for environmental protection, waste management. There will never be any mining, and it's a protected area. Now, jurisdiction for crimes of this continent is typically under the home country. So, what we talked about before, if the United States station has a crime committed by a United States citizen, then the United States government is responsible for that crime.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, here in Rodney's death, it became very convoluted because he was an Australian in a United States base in a New Zealand territory, and his body had the autopsy performed in New Zealand. Now we get where it gets very confusing. So, very long story short, the New Zealand coroner, Richard McElroy, and Detective Senior Sergeant Grant Wormold, they were looking at this case. So, they took custody of it, if you will. And they figured that there was no way that this was a suicide attempt. And another reason this didn't seem logical is because it was well known that the station stayed very stocked up on alcohol. And that's to prevent the monotony of station life. So in a way to like keep people happy, you would have your parties, you would have alcohol. So why on earth would he need to drink methanol to get drunk? And it most likely wasn't a suicide attempt as he was like engaged to Sonia and he was like life of the
Happy.
party and but we all know, I mean, Chester Bennington's a perfect example where nobody saw that one coming, like, at
Oh
all.
God, yeah.
I mean, unless you looked at his eyes in that car karaoke.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, they were just like, "We're pretty sure this wasn't suicide, that he drank the methanol, um, intentionally."
Track marks. I know you'll get to it.
We'll see. I can't remember if I bring this up again. So, well, looking into the case, there was a couple of problems. So, one, according to the investigation, the United States government and the National Science Foundation, they wouldn't assist. They claimed to have made an investigation on their own, and they said they wouldn't make the results public and they wouldn't share them with the detective.
Suspicious. That's super sus.
Yeah, I there's no reasoning that they gave as to why they weren't doing that. They were just like, we did our part, everything's fine. They have the info. And everybody's like, no, they don't have the info. And they're like, they have the info. Now, they sent out questionnaires to 49 of the people who were stationed there at the time, but only 13 people returned the questionnaires because it wasn't mandatory. It wasn't like court ordered. They weren't like, oh, you have to do this. Because remember, he wasn't able to get taken out of Antarctica until everybody was able to. Like, so you couldn't sequester anybody. They didn't think it was a murder investigation. So why would you keep track of everybody? Everybody's multinational.
Right.
It becomes like a whole jurisdictional issue, and it's like, really, it is a whole thing. And now there's another hitch in the giddy up when it was discovered that he didn't use the ectochem machine, the doctor. So the ectochem machine was developed in the 1970s. And long story short, I hope I described this right. It's a slide with a lot of layers, and you put your blood on it, and you spread it out across the slide. And then it creates like kind of a color test. And this color test is read by a computer, and then it spits out the results of what the blood has been tested for. And one of these test results would have been methanol.
Right.
Now, it would have measured his blood chemistry and it would have shown that he was suffering from methanol poisoning. And you can counteract methanol poisoning with ethanol and saline. So they could have saved him if they had used the ectochem. But when they asked Dr. Thompson why he didn't use it, he said, well, lithium battery died, so the machine turned off, which therefore made it lose calibration. And when they turned it back on, it would have taken 8 to 10 hours to recalibrate. But it took over 24 hours for Rodney to die.
Ah, I do know that batteries don't do well in the cold either, if that matters. Like, I
Even if
have
it,
stuff outside that won't work when it's really cold.
but even so, I understand that it died. So you've got a guy that's sick and you can't figure out why he's sick. You turn on the stupid machine. Again, I'm
Try
a
to calibrate it.
scientist. I'm a scientist. You turn on the machine, you wait for it to load, you calibrate it, and at least if it's calibrating while he dies, you've done what you can do.
Right.
Why wouldn't you try? That's what pissed me off about this one. I'm like, you didn't even try. He was just like, meh, didn't work and it wasn't calibrated. Here's the other thing, even if it's not calibrated and you run the blood through it not being calibrated, you could have at least had a heads up,
Something.
something,
Yeah.
anything. It's there for a reason. They put it on the station for a reason. Sorry, I'm like
They're
punching my
so
couch right now.
lazy.
I'm so pissed.
What years was this?
This was 19. Oh, heck. That was a couple pages ago. Sorry. 2000.
Oh,
Yeah. There's no reason. None. And now further, it was believed that he died from natural causes, or like when he was in the station, they were like, "Oh, remember it? Oh, it was heart disease. It was an embolism." So because they thought it was natural causes, they didn't preserve anything.
throwing up blood?
I'm giving Mel a look like somehow again. I don't know why I keep thinking that everybody could figure out my facial expressions here, but
Because someday maybe we'll be on YouTube.
I mean, we're trying. And now nothing was preserved at the scene, and so no investigation was able to take place because they didn't discover the methanol until after 6 months after he had been poisoned. Now, the final story okay, so in reality, um, it was either an accident, maybe it was a prank, like somebody just put methanol in his. Okay, because remember, ethanol counteracts methanol. He drank a lot.
Yeah.
So technically, if you balanced it just right, you could put methanol in somebody's drink, cause them to be like ill, and then they drink ethanol and they would get better.
This is not jokes.
No, it's really not.
This is what scientists do
No.
in freaking Antarctica, surrounded by liquor.
I mean, here's the thing. We do pranks all the time at work. I'm not gonna lie. We definitely do prank each other quite a bit, but I would never prank somebody with a life-threatening issue.
And then the track marks. Come on.
Okay, the track marks were never explained. Nobody was able to explain them. They think that theoretically, okay, again, this was only reported in one, maybe two sources, which is why I didn't include it in my script. But they think that maybe somebody did it in hopes that,
Cover something up.
mhm. But then again, okay, I donate blood so often, it looks like I have track marks, but I don't. But I have really good veins. So they always use those really big needles, and the really big needles leave scars.
This is
And
terrifying.
so I have like four, maybe five needle marks in each arm.
And I use baby needles under protest when I have to get blood drawn.
Yeah, and here
I don't even know my blood type.
we've been over that. But I do, like I said, I'm in the gallon club, so I do donate so much because it's quite easy for me. So if you look at my arms after death, you might think I have track marks if you don't know about my history. So now I have it on recorded, literal history. It's all from blood
Well, he's
donations.
not donating blood in Antarctica, is he?
No, but I don't. I mean,
We're not talking about you right now. We're talking about the guy that has track marks.
I don't know. There was never an explanation for these alleged track marks,
I need answers.
but there was no drugs in his system. So in reality, we'll never know what happened.
Is there something that could work through his system by the time they got to his body?
There's a lot of drugs that would, but it was methanol that
This is
killed
an
him.
unsolved mystery.
Yeah.
We don't like covering unsolved mysteries.
And I did this to you. I did do it
You hate me.
sometimes. So yeah, we'll most likely never know why he died or how. I mean, we know why he died. We just don't know how. Like, wait, no, we don't know the why. We know the how. But the final story I'm going to tell you about Antarctica. We're wrapping it up. It happened at the Russian Bellinghausen station. on King George Island in 2018, and that was Sergei Savitsky, who was 54. An electrical engineer was stabbed, or he stabbed Oleg Meloguzov, 52, who was a welder in the dining room. Oleg survived, and when questioned as to why it happened, allegedly Oleg would spoil the ending to every book that Sergei would grab from the station library. Now,
You this you could do this to somebody. I mean, you would murder somebody if they did this. This is so up your alley.
when I read this, I honestly I was like, I mean, like, don't stab somebody, but
But I get it.
I'm sorry, you're getting an asthma laugh out of that.
Just give him a concussion. Don't murder him.
Or just hide the book that you're reading. Like, that's the other thing. But yeah, if I had somebody following me around spoiling the ending, because I love me some good thrillers and all that stuff, and if somebody spoiled the ending to every single book that I picked up, I would be very mad. And that was the stabbing that happened. So since Oleg survived, he forgave Sergei, and there was no charges. They were dropped. Uh, and that's why we don't have anything like official, like there was no trial transcripts or anything like that for that. But yeah, I thought I would end it on that one that was slightly humorous and
Kinda
somebody
funny, yeah.
still
Alive.
lived.
Survival story.
Yes. But yeah, we know that this episode had a lot of tangents, and I would love to say it's because Mel and I haven't seen each other in forever, but it has been 5 days.
Yeah. Football season.
But yes, hopefully this nice burry cold
Hopefully you guys learned
episode.
a bunch of stuff because I know I learned a bunch of stuff.
I mean, same. Researching this, I was like, oh, I knew nothing about Antarctica, apparently.
And I know I will not be able to go there anytime soon
No.
because I have my pancreas
Appendix?
appendix.
I can go.
I have all my organs unlike you, except for
Oh.
our tonsils and organ. I don't have those.
I have those. Look at that. But yeah, I'm missing a few organs. It's fine. It's fine. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and we'll talk to you next week.
Happy holidays.
Happy
y'all.
holidays.
The views and thoughts expressed in this podcast are ours alone and do not represent the thoughts or opinions of anyone else. The information presented is for general information purposes only. We are not liable for anything you do with this information.